So I'm going to go to Bill in Pennsylvania. Wants to talk about how to defeat presup arguments. Well, I've been really waiting for the actual argument that I'm interested in, but yeah, what do you have in mind specifically?
Well, I'm an atheist, so I'm just referencing your interview or confrontation with Dawkins several weeks ago, or maybe it was a few years ago, really.
It was probably years ago, yeah.
How long ago it was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't had a conversation since.
You haven't? Do you wish you had?
I've tried. I'll just put it that way. But the spot goes vacant all of a sudden. So that's all I'll say.
Oh, they turn you away. Yeah. That's not surprising. It's just, I've heard somebody pinned Darth down. I was just listening to it today. And they ask him, well, what's your justification? Well, or what's your foundation? What's your ultimate? Well, it's been revealed.
I do want to, Bill, if I can for the call, I don't want to like single any particular person out on this. I'm just not generally like comfortable doing that. Like if I know them or something a little bit, maybe, but like I try not to do that. Maybe I've messed up in the past, but if we can, because I think that the content of the precept stuff is all like, it's all there. And it won't matter if even if I'm mentioning like Van Til or, Bahnsen or these guys that are like the fathers of it. Would you agree? Or because I just kind of want to see what maybe you have a concern just relative to the precept stuff. So that way we avoid kind of personally talking about somebody.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, let it be Darth or Saitan Bugengate or whoever.
Yeah. But I mean, I want them to have the ability to defend themselves. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any precept, their foundation is, well, it's been revealed to me. Correct? Yep. Isn't that one of their basic tenets?
100%. My question to that is always, what does reveal mean? I don't really know what that means because I'm revealed things every day. So if it's just some trivial
why doesn't
sense.
everybody just laugh in their face? What do you mean? Nothing's been revealed to you.
Well, let me like help you because I want to try to get through this just to kind of, because this is a really good topic, I think, to like help people that get online and they might get just bombarded with some like precept or maybe even just a troll or Poe kind of doing the precept thing, which exists. So if the best way to tackle this, in my opinion, is ask them straightforwardly for the argument, right? And it's going to be something to the effect of like, God is this necessary precondition for knowledge, God, therefore knowledge kind of idea, right? Or this biconditional statement that you can only have knowledge if and only if, the Christian God exists. What if you like put that out in like in an argument, the first premise is the one that's going to be contentious from atheists. They're going to go like, why should I accept if God exists and knowledge exists? Like I think that it could just be true that antecedent, that God, like there could just be no God and I could still have knowledge. In fact, that's the view I hold. So what they have to do when you give you an argument, you can't just go like, okay, well, why is like the premise false, or give me your worldview or justify your stuff. That's not how like arguments work, right? So they have this kind of backwards. And I will use somebody who's a Christian that I'm actually gonna give them a little bit of praise, even though I think they're wrong here. That William Lane Craig, for example, I'm not like the biggest fan, but William Lane Craig doesn't make this mistake. When William Lane Craig gives the Kalam, for example, what we get is an additional arguments for the first and second premises, right? So we'll get something like for the second premise, like that you can't have actual infinities, which I think that this argument's completely wrong. But what he does is, if I came up to him and was like, hey, I don't accept premise 2, there's maybe there's a scientific inquiry we have, and there's not a beginning. And what he wants to do is say, well, hey, look, like, I'm going to rule that out a priori or from the armchair and give this kind of argument that you can just reason to. But that's the point of bringing that up, is that's the step that someone has to do in an argument. What they have to do is, if I don't accept that first premise, they have to take that first premise and make it a conclusion of a new argument and give me new reasons, right? That never happens. You will literally win every precept conversation you ever have with anybody. Just if you ask them to support the first premise, I don't accept that. Maybe you can get me to Jesus, give me an additional argument, a supplemental argument that allows me to see the reasons to that premise, to that new conclusion. And that will never be done. What will be done is it will be a focus on your worldview. And if you die on the hill for any view, In my opinion, you will be losing the game, because they're stating emphatically that you can only have knowledge if the Christian God exists, nothing else. If I was in that conversation and it just turned out that like I'm talking with this precept, like let me give them all the credit I can. But I'm talking with this precept and I go, oh man, you know what? After talking to you, I'm really confused about my worldview. I don't know what to believe, this, that, or that. And I'm having an existential crisis right now. But wait a second, you told me about this Jesus thing, and you told me that like I can only have knowledge if this Jesus thing is true. So let's get back to that thing. We already went to this whole weird segue of showing me that my, like worldview doesn't work or my TV doesn't turn on. Let's see if your TV turns on. You're telling me that it does, right? So now give me that argument. And you'll notice how much of a time waster it would have even been if I granted, that I'm just having this existential crisis and I don't know what's going on, which is way too charitable for me to do. But just to elucidate the point is like, if someone really did that, what the fuck are they going to do? They're going to have to now give that argument and come to Jesus. And they don't have that argument. So that's kind of that's like my 2 cents on it. It's synopsis of Presup and why it's a joke, a complete joke. And that's the tactic that you should take.
Okay.
So, Bill, does that help?
Justin, yes, it does. Yeah, I was focusing on the wrong things here.
No worries. I understand. My brain goes all screwy too, so I get it. Yeah.
Justin, do you regret pissing Darth off in your 30-second confrontation with him when I think you called him Dirth or something? He got his panties in a bunch and just fizzled. Don't you wish? Do you wish you would have had some kind of confrontation or discussion with him, or?
No, not really. I mean, there are some philosophers that I've come in contact with on the other side that are like worth engaging. I've never seen a worthwhile engagement with Darth Dawkins. So I have no, and he's so rude to all of his guests. I don't feel like I owe him anything. So yeah, like if I treat him the way that he treats everybody else and he gets his panty in a twist, I guess that's on him. Maybe he should examine his own behavior.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It's no skin off my back if like these philosophers don't want to come into my live stream, because it might be true that I'm completely like I don't have epistemic justification for my worldview. That could be true. But it could also be true that they don't have epistemic justification for their worldview. And my goal has always been to, when people come in and they believe in a particular deity, I want to know the justification for that deity, because your deity doesn't exist by proving somebody else's worldview wrong. Like you could prove evolution wrong, you can prove abiogenesis wrong, you can prove the Big Bang wrong, you can disprove all these scientific theories wrong, and it still wouldn't mean that your God is the answer. You still have to provide the argument for your God being the answer. Your God isn't the answer by default, because any God could be that answer by default, which is why I do Doug, because every argument that they use for their God, I can use for this rock that has googly eyes glued on it. And I have as much philosophical justification for that as they do for their God. So to me, it's supremely uninteresting to engage with philosophy bros on presuppositional apologetics that will never actually get them to defend their actual worldview. They just think if I can say that your worldview is false, then mine is now true by default. But that's not how things work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they use these buzzwords like the ground of all being and ultimate and stuff like that. Then how, can't you just come back? How do you know there is anything ultimate? And what's the ground of all being and the source of intelligibility?
Bill, I don't understand this philosophical talk about like grounding and stuff. Like might make sense to me in some context when I talk to people, but like what I think a lot of people have in mind, I'm just so divorced on this concept of grounding and in that way. And then it also seems to like smuggle in this weird kind of like foundationalism maybe, or like, I don't know. I know there's other precepts that are like coherentists and stuff. So maybe that's not fair depending on how they want to give that analysis. But yeah, I mean, there's something like Justin said that really resonates to me is like this weird, like, your car doesn't turn on, so mine does kind of thing is like very odd to me. Like it's like something's gone wrong. Something's like clearly gone wrong here, man. Like you're like, oh man, I have this awesome sports package, and I'm the only one that has this sports package, and like if we go to your house right now, you won't have the sports package, and then like I turn it on or something and like it doesn't come on. They're like, see, I have the sports package on my TV. I'm like, well, hold on, we still got to do like this whole investigation. Like I got to drive to your house or apartment, we got to see if you got the sports package, right? It's like on its own merits, right? So it's really, really odd. And then you add that like my TV is the only one that has this sports package. In fact, the sports packages can only exist from this unified television set. You know, it's just like it's just gibberish. It's nonsense. But we're gonna move on, Bill. To I could talk precept all day, and so I have to put my foot down, or else I will do that. So, but we do appreciate your call, Bill.
Show to do. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah.